That then brings us to that fourth word, which is mission.
Got it.
And mission is the place that our callings come together.
Mm.
It's the sense of, you know, I always tell people if you can do what you're called to do on your own, you've either overestimated yourself or misheard God. Because my calling is important, but my calling plays a role in the bigger mission that God has for his church. And so, one of the ways we can talk about this is Jesus always sees individuals, but he sends teams. He sees individuals. He calls like in his ministry with Peter. He says, "You're no longer Simon. You're Peter." He's calling out of Peter, who Peter doesn't even really know who he is, and so he sees that, and there's a sense of calling that is associated with that, but that calling is lived out in something bigger than his individual fulfillment. And that is the mission of the community of believers that God is doing his work in the world through. So,
And
mission,
that's even
yeah,
the rest of that statement, right? You're now Peter, and
right,
on this rock,
right,
right?
yeah, 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 exactly,
It's that the calling and
right there,
mission like right
right.
next to each other.
Right.
Yeah.
So I want you to see this for a couple of reasons, because here's two mistakes I think when it comes to calling and purpose in our lives and mission in our lives. The first one is we start to think calling is just for me.
Mm.
Calling is not just for me. It's my part to play in the bigger mission that God is fulfilling in his world.
Mm.
And that requires me being attached to other people. But the second is just the reverse. If you're a church leader, if you want to accomplish the mission that God has placed for your church, and all you are igniting in people is where are they good? What is their ability? You're
Mm.
short-circuiting the process. It may help you fill your volunteer drain pipe, but it's not going to help you create your leadership pipeline, because mission should activate calling, uh, which is then, defined by purpose plus its influence. And when we just short circuit that to, hey, here's the mission of our church, what are you good at? We don't ignite the intrinsic motivation of the Spirit of God working in a person's life. We are just simply, we kind of deteriorate into filling spots into what we need to happen. And again, I don't think anyone does that intentionally. We're just trying to mobilize the mission of our church. But I think just even this framework is really helpful to say your mission is going to be best energized when you're igniting calling, which then goes further into purpose, which is, that passion and
Right.
ability. Then all of a sudden you're working from intrinsic, not extrinsic motivation. I don't have to
Yeah.
motivate you to do it. Now it's inside of you. I've called that out of you. And now you motivate yourself to play your role in our church's mission.
Something you're naming there, Dave, I think is really good too. I've not really thought of before, but as a church leader, when I'm simply trying to awake in gifting and clarity of
Right.
gifting
Right.
or in people so that we can utilize that in the ministries of the church, I'm actually inviting people into my influence,
Right.
live their calling into my place of influence, my scope,
Huh.
my influence, versus actually expanding the larger mission of the church into helping them identify how does that play out into their scope of their influence in their relational spheres as well. And again, this just gets back to that, people's 9 to 5 matters.
Yes.
Right. And part of living out your calling, we often would say too, is it's being able to live it out in all of the areas of your life and
Right.
really connecting the dots to people's vocation as well and how they bring the kingdom, in essence,
Right.
into those spheres of influence. And so now the mission of the church really does continue to
Right.
expand.
Which is what we talk about, Shane, in our bigger process at Clarity House Funnel Fusion. When we define mission, it's what we all do together, and it's the all play everyday mission that we're on. So that is what mission is. Calling is my role to play and how I play that every day in the places where I live, work, and play.